Hello everyone and welcome to episode 61 of Generation GC, all black, from Good Morning Revival, Good Charlotte's fourth album in 2007, and my guest today is Avius. Last week we talked about Predictable from the Chronicles of Life and Death, and next week we'll be talking about a song from Cardiology. Avius is a music producer, engineer, and songwriter from Ontario, Canada, who also runs his own studio. He's been listening to Good Charlotte pretty much his whole life, and he owns a lot of their physical records and even has a drumhead signed by every member. Good Morning Revival has always been his favorite album. He says the production really separates itself from the other GC albums, and he really likes how they incorporated synths and some dance elements. Avius was also big into artists like Metro Station and MGMT at the time, and was excited to hear GC maybe going a little bit in that direction. And since we do reference this on the episode a little bit, the Good Charlotte love is all in the family here. His older sister is Loriana Lasavita, who was on episode 32 of Generation GC talking about bitter demons. We truly love to see it. Brotherly, sisterly love of Good Charlotte. What a great way to bond. I want to mention that I love having guests from all around the world on Generation GC and from all different backgrounds. If English isn't your first language, that's okay. As long as you're comfortable holding a conversation in English, you're good to go. I really want everyone listening to this show to feel like they are represented, to share their perspective, and I just would really love for everyone that listens to this show to be able to go, wow, someone like me is on here. So hey, if you want to come on the show, if you're interested in talking about Good Charlotte, if you feel like you have, your own perspective, just anything you want to say, reach out. For the past several months, since last June, really close to a year, I guess, actually, I've been advocating for Black Lives Matter in the podcast intros. I've also been including the mention about anti-Semitism. But unfortunately, until a couple weeks ago, there really just wasn't enough attention drawn to the incredible amount of anti-Asian racism and anti-Asian hate crime that's happening all over. I'm adding also the mention to anti-Asian-violence-resources.card.co to learn more, and that's going to have more statistics for you as well as resources to educate yourself on how to actually be an ally. Something I also wanted to mention is just all the people speaking up against the troubled teen industry. Breaking Code Silence is kind of the hashtag, that's the movement. Paris Hilton talked about this in her documentary. Danielle Bergoli, aka Bad Baby, has been speaking up about it. It's all over TikTok. To anyone that is a survivor of one of these troubled teen programs, whether that's, you've survived institutionalized abuse, neglect, any kind of psychological harm, or just pseudoscientific practices, I believe you. And I definitely encourage anyone listening to visit breakingcodesilence.net. That is going to give you just more information, whether you're an ally, a supporter, or you are someone who is a survivor, what kind of resources you might find. On a more positive note, I did want to say thank you to everyone. If you're listening to this episode on April 14th, 2021, the day that it comes out, tomorrow, April 15th, 2021, marks 1 year of Generation GC, 1 year since episode 1 on Little Things went live. And what a year it's been. I started this podcast, I had the idea, it just sounded fun, kind of self-indulgent in a way. And I was bored and felt pretty depressed in the beginning of quarantine. And I think at first I was just sure that we would only be inside for a couple weeks at most. And I didn't really think the podcast would last that long. And I just didn't know if anyone would care. I truly did not know if anybody would actually want to listen, but you guys have, which is so cool. It's, as someone who's been in this music industry for such a long time, it's really just an incredible feeling to know that people care about what I'm doing and they care about the community around it. That, Generation GC, it's just me in terms of creating and producing and editing and hosting the show, but it's so much more than that. It's about, bringing the GC fam together And that's all of us. That's all of you. So thank you. I'm going to be throwing a birthday party over on Zoom on April 15th, 2021. Link to that will be in the show notes. Please join the Generation GC fan Facebook group too. I'll post updates in there. Finally, Generation GC stickers are here. If you do want some stickers, there's 2 things you can do. Number 1, support the show on Anchor. Go to anchor.fm/GenerationGCPod and click support. And that money is all just going to go right back into making the show the best that it could be, helping me print and ship the stickers, and it helps me get any equipment I need, microphone cables, laptop stand, headphones, things like that. Number 2, you can make a charitable donation. I'm going to encourage you to donate to No Kid Hungry. Even, whatever you can afford to give just makes a really big difference in feeding people who needs it. And then you're going to send me a screenshot of either your support of the show on Anchor or your donation to No Kid Hungry, as well as your mailing address, and I will send you some stickers. Pretty cool, right? Also, make sure you keep up with Generation GC on socials at Generation GC Pod on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, because I will just occasionally post things on there about different ways you can either spread the word about Generation GC or just different things you can do to make the world a better place. And get some stickers in the process. Well, thank you for tuning in, and now on to episode 61.
All Black. This one is track 9 on Good Morning Revival, Good Charlotte's 4th album released in 2007. Track 8 was Break Apart Our Heart, and track 10 was Beautiful Place. The song was written by Benji and Joel Madden and producer Dan Gilmore. The backing vocals are by Bobby Page, Terry Wood, Maxine Waters, and Carmen Carter. This song has been played live, and originally in my notes I said not in North America, but I looked over when it was played, and I have changed that to mostly outside of North America because it was played in Calgary in July 2007. A few shows around, Australia, UK, one in Glasgow. So I don't know. Never played in the US though.
Wow.
Not a single. So no radio play, and there's no music video. I think this would have been such a cool song to hear live though.
It was shocking to me when I read that. It said not played in North America. I was thinking, oh my gosh, like what? So yeah, seeing that has been at least once, it makes sense to me now, because it's one of my favorites off the album for sure.
It's one of my favorites too. I mean, it's such a great track. It's so dramatic. But I think of like what is in kind of regular rotation from this album live, and it's like Dance Floor Anthem, Keep Your Hands Off My Girl. Those are like the big ones that I feel like you would be most likely to hear from this album.
For sure. Yeah, I really enjoyed this album. Like, I'm always arguing with my sister about it because she has her opinions on what the best GC album is, and yes. I don't know if I can pick a favorite, but this one's definitely up there.
Yeah. Well, I want to help our guests get to know you, and
before we get into it, for sure,
yeah, listeners, Avius is Loriana Lasavita's brother. Loriana was on the show for the song Better Demons from Generation RX, and I had tweeted, I think I just like tweeted about this album, and she was like, oh, my brother, and I was like, hell yeah, it's in the family. So I want to know, when did you first hear Good Charlotte, and what were your first thoughts on them?
Well, I mean, obviously I first heard Good Charlotte from my sister. So
sure.
It's just funny that my only claim to fame in the GC community is being Laura's little brother. So, so hi everybody who's listening and knows who my sister is. I'm just her shadow. But obviously I first heard Good Charlotte from my sister. And I'm honestly like, I don't want to throw my sister under the bus and tell an embarrassing story, but I'm going to anyway.
Okay.
Like, my literal first memory of like hearing the words Good Charlotte was I was at my nonna's house with my sister, and I think she was supposed to go to a concert. This was like a long time ago. I can't remember the exact year. Oh my gosh, maybe 2003 or something. I don't know. I was young, and she was supposed to go, and then like at the last second couldn't go and was like crying her eyes out.
Oh no.
And I just remember like asking her what was the matter, and I was so young, and like she explained to me that she was like I would love Joel. I want to see them and all this stuff. And I was like so
Oh,
little.
no.
I didn't know what was going on. I was just like, oh, it's okay. And I was just like listening to her. And like, that's when I first like learned what they were, just my sister's obsession. And then, I think she actually ended up going that night. I think my dad like
Oh.
came and surprised her tickets. Something happened. She ended up going. And, this is like early GC era. And then like she came back and then just had like a bunch of stories to tell me and everything from the show and how like I was this close to him and like all that stuff. And then that's just my first memory of like, you know, being aware of who they were. And I guess from that point onward, it was just, she just brought me along for the ride and was always just like showing me when they released stuff. And they're pretty much my first band that I actively like listened to and had CDs of, just because like my sister was there to kind of like help curate the taste, you know?
Yeah. I was going to ask who was older.
She's like 5 years older than me. So.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
And I also like to ask everyone, have you ever seen Good Charlotte live?
Yeah, so I've only seen them once, and even that was like, it took so long for it to happen. It was one of those things where when I was there with her, we were looking at each other. It's like, I can't believe this is finally happening, because for years she was trying to get me to go with her. And the thing is, like, she always will be seeing them out of the continent, all over the place. And like, I haven't left the continent yet. It's my dream to travel and go somewhere, but like, just the timing was always inconvenient.
Sure.
She's like, just drop everything and come to Europe with me. I was like, okay, I can't. But they finally played in Detroit. Right? Yeah. And when they played in Detroit, I was like, okay, I'll come with you. And it was a blast. I had such a fun time.
Still international, technically, for you.
True. Yes.
Although I know that's not that far, because you're from Windsor, I want to say.
Yeah, Windsor. So honestly, a drive to Detroit, well, not right now because the border's closed, but it's literally something I do maybe monthly or twice a month. It's like a 10-minute drive. So yeah. I had a friend in college. I went to school in Ohio, and I had a friend that like briefly dated a guy that was in Windsor, and she would just take like a bus to Detroit and then like, you know, take whatever transit like over. Yeah, that is the one thing I love about my city, being a border city. It's like basically Detroit feels like my backyard, you know, for shopping or concerts. I've seen like 90% of the concerts I've been to are in Detroit. So yeah, Detroit gets, I feel like most major tours would go to Detroit for sure. I've seen everybody there, like Kanye, like the Gorillaz, everything. So amazing. Yeah. Well, I want to know about how you got started making music. Oh, this is an exciting question. Yeah. Be careful, because I couldn't ramble forever. So go for it. Yeah. I've been making music for about, I think, 8 years now. Oh, wow. I try not to like count the years, because like I feel like it puts pressure on, like, oh my God, I've been doing it for this long or whatever. It's not a competition. So I think it's been 8 years, but I've kind of been involved with playing instruments for longer than that. It was, I think, 8 years ago that I actually was like, okay, I'm going to apply my knowledge and learn a software and actually try to write my own stuff. I mean, like my stem for like my love for music stems from, like I would say what my love for creating music stems from video games, actually, originally. Really? Yes. Like I've obviously always loved listening and dancing to music and whatever, as long as I can remember being alive. But like the instinct to create music and play music and write music originally came from video games, because as a child, I mean, video games have some great music. And there was always a piano at my Nona's house. And every time I would go there as a child, I would always like play around with the keys. And it wasn't long before I just started learning by ear, like songs from my favorite video games. It just felt natural to me, you know? And it was something to do while I was at my Nona's house before like dinner was ready and I was just bored. I would just like play around with their piano. And then like before I knew it, I was just kind of like playing with both hands, and it just came very natural to me. And I always had a love for, like I said, video games and computers and stuff. And when I saw that like the way technology was moving with like music being created on a computer, it just felt like the next natural step would be to try to learn how to combine my two favorite things, like technology and music. So yeah, that's kind of how I got started, and I haven't looked back. Yeah. So yeah. I'm really excited to have you, because a few years ago, I learned that a lot of people in the electronic
music world, a lot of producers and DJs are current or former emo kids who love bands like Good Charlotte, or at least like grew up with that. And I would love to hear from you, besides, you know, your own music, of course. Like, what are some, because I have some in my mind that are people that I know of as like former scene kids, but I would love to hear your ideas of like what electronic artists you would recommend to a GC fan who wants to check out that whole style of music.
Oh, that's a big question. Honestly, like for electronic, I'd say it's a more recent boom of like hearing the punk and emo sound in electronic. Whereas if you ask me about that question with hip hop and rap, I could probably give so many answers, because like I think for years, I'd say from 2015 onward, like we're seeing so much like punk, emo, early 2000s influence in pop music in general, whether it's like hip hop, rap, electronic, whatever. And I think the reason for that is just because time's just moving forward, and all these kids that grew up listening to that are now old enough to make that music, you know? Yeah. And you're just hearing it in their musical DNA. You're hearing all these influences. Like, you can't deny that people like, you know, Peep and X and all those guys like have some sort of like they have a raw like punk emo rock background, whereas like some of the rappers 10 years before them, there was none of that. It was just kind of purely lyrical and not about like having guitars and those kind of vibes. And it's just cool to see that mesh happen over time. For electronic music, I'd have to think. I don't know, like something that I don't know, have you heard of 100 Gex?
Yes.
Okay, so I'd say something more in line with like the hyperpop wave nowadays. Like 100 Gex is just like a very quick example, but like basically anything affiliated with them, there's a very clear influence of like scene music in that, I'd say, with the melodies and kind of like just the way their vocals are like processed and just are delivered.
I heard one of my friends, I think it was my friend Logan, who, I don't know, someone was comparing them to 303, or maybe they talked about 303 being a big influence in an interview.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Yeah. Like you can hear it. And even if you don't hear it, I'm pretty sure they went on record and mentioned that they love 303. Yeah. I could be wrong, but I think there was a 303 remix on the 100 Gex album. Let me check, but continue.
No, I was going to say one that comes to mind for me. I mean, obviously, like Marshmello has a couple collabs. I feel like I've mentioned this on the show before, but like I wrote a Marshmello when I was writing for Substream. I wrote an article about, you know, whatever song Marshmello had released, and I called it pop punk. And I remember a couple people kind of flamed me. They were like, this isn't pop punk, WTF. And then like Joel Madden was even tweeting about the song, and I was like, all right, this is pop punk. But another that comes to mind for me, at least in one song, OK has a song, I think it was Better Off, that literally sounds like, you know, a Newfound Glory song, except it's, you know, electronic.
See, I hate people arguing about genres, because at the end of the day, it's like genres don't exist really.
Yeah.
Like humans love to like categorize and just organize and label everything. So like they exist because we let them exist. But like when something falls in a category that's kind of a blend of things, there's always going to be people arguing like what it is, because they don't. Right. These people that love Marshmello don't want to think that they're listening to a pop punk song.
Right. And people that love pop punk can be protective of that.
Exactly. Or it could be, or it could be people like, it could be the other way around. People being like, no, I'm a pop punk fan. I don't want to think that this artist is like under my umbrella.
Right.
But the way it goes nowadays, and basically any day, because music's always moving forward, is there's going to be so many emerging artists that are just a weird mix of things, you know, that can't kind of be pinpointed. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think that's good, though. This is, most people would agree that's good for music, right?
Yeah.
So.
I mean, I would say it is. Like, it's definitely, I feel like, just renewed interest. in a lot of different genres.
I mean, that's how pop punk was born. There was a point when it didn't exist, and someone started making something different, right? So
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, for sure. And I'm looking at the 100 Gex album right now. There's like a remix album they put out, and there's a Fall Out Boy remix.
There is.
Yeah. And then, I don't know, I can't see 303. Maybe I was remembering wrong. Maybe it was Fall Out Boy I was thinking of. But yeah.
Yeah, I know the Fall Out Boy remix. It's honestly like, it sounds so like Fall Out Boy that I'm like, yeah. Like, this is just what I would have expected Fall Out Boy to do on their next album, because Fall Out Boy has had such an evolution.
Mm-hmm. Oh, okay, here it is. 303 has a song with 100 Gex. So they have a song. They actually have a song together.
Okay.
Wow, crazy.
Man, that'll be sick. I want to have 100 Gex on this show. I wonder if they like GC.
I guarantee you they do. Yeah.
That'd be so sick.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we connected over your love of Good Morning Revival. So I want to know, like, what sticks out to you about the album, as well as, like, is this what you think you expected Good Charlotte to do at the time? Like, after Chronicles, is this what you would have expected GC to be doing?
It's funny because in like looking back, no, like now that I'm like older and understand how this stuff works, and I'm an artist myself, I look at their discography and I recognize that it was a bit of a left turn. But I think what makes me a little bit different than my sister is the fact that I was so young when it came out that I didn't care or think about that stuff.
Yeah.
And I didn't even really like know what GC's sound was, because I was so young that it was just kind of like whatever my sister puts on, I either tell her I like it, or I tell her I'd like play a different one, right? So like that album came out and was in rotation for me so young in my life that I just accepted that it was GC, because that's how I knew GC. You know what I mean?
Right.
Whereas like other fans, I can definitely sympathize with how they had years and years of liking GC before that, and that kind of pulled them in a direction where they were like, ooh. But I just accepted it, and I was like, yeah, this is Good Charlotte. If anything, like that album to me sounds more Good Charlotte than a lot of them, Because
I'm gathering, or at least guessing, that this was the first that you sort of looked forward to, like the first new one for you.
Yeah, that might have been it. It might have been the first that, like, when it dropped, I was like a conscious GC fan, in the sense where like I remember it being released, so there was like a little bit of excitement. Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, I get that though, and I feel like, I don't know, my own experience is definitely colored by years of music journalism and running a blog and writing for other outlets and concert photography and all, where I have spent 10 years looking at music critically, right? So my own experience with like growing up and listening to music as I get older is very colored by that. But I do feel like there's something special about stuff that you discover young, because you're just like, okay, I like this. You're not necessarily thinking about what's cool or what's quote unquote good. It's just like, I like this. This makes me feel good. Yeah,
there's no expectations. Like I just put it on and I was like, oh, cool. Nice bright album cover. Like I remember looking at the album cover and thinking that the album cover looked like a little bit of a different like direction for them. But like I never questioned the music when it was put on. Yeah.
Yeah. So. The Orange album. I refer to it as
Orange album. Yeah.
Well, we will talk specifically about the All Black remix, but as a general whole, I would love to hear some of your thoughts on the 2008 Greatest Remixes release.
So yeah, I have a very distinct memory of this too. Like my sister buying it and like putting it in, and the album. I thought the album cover was so cool with the skull.
Such a cool album cover.
I still remember my sister would have it in her like dresser drawer in her bedroom, and I would like sneak into her room and then like steal the CD and like play it. But I remember as a kid it being like so long, like the album being so lengthy, and like me only really liking, because I think Good Morning Revival is like 14 songs, and the remix is like what, 20? Yeah,
20. Yeah.
So I remember only liking like a handful. And it was like, well, I loved Steve Aoki, so I would just put the Steve Aoki one on too. But I liked the River remix, and then there was like, I think the Predictable remix almost felt like reggae-ish or something, if I remember.
Yeah, there's a couple like, that feel kind of reggae.
And then the first track, the Los Angeles Worldwide one's dope. But this is really the only ones I really remember. But I do remember like loving the Steve Aoki one and just stealing it from my sister and always playing it. I think it was an interesting move from their, like, you know, where they were at that point, like especially venturing into electronic, and so there's some rap stuff on there. I thought that was definitely like bold of them.
Well, it's like, you know, we'll read reviews later in the show, but like definitely this album did not get good reviews, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of interesting that they were like, we did this dance album, it didn't get good reviews, let's do a remix album. And I kind of wonder just if there would be different reception to something like this coming out today, because I feel like people today are more receptive of maybe a punk band like Fall Out Boy doing a 100 Gex remix, you know, or Marshmello having a song with A Day to Remember. I feel like people are more accepting of that stuff now. So I wonder, like, were they like 10 plus years too early?
Yeah, that's a good point.
You know?
Like, there's always this sacrifice you make with doing things way too early, that like, even if it falls and like under the category of being labeled as corny, or even if it's genuinely not good, you're almost being a martyr in the sense where it's like someone has to try it, and even if they fall or fail, like it was like someone did it to show that like at least you can do it. Like they did take that sound and they did mix it with electronic and rap, which is literally 2008. Like who else was really doing it at that time, you know?
Right.
Very,
I mean,
very early days to do that. Yeah.
I mean, you know, there's the Metro station. I think the most interesting part of this release to me, and I don't like this album. Or at least I did not like this album. But honestly, our conversation is kind of making me like, okay, I honestly, like, I need to give it more of a shot, right? But something that's really interesting to me on this is the Metro Station cover of Dance Floor Anthem. Which, like, what is that? You know, where did that come from? Like, it is, the timing, I think, you know, I don't know. I feel like their fans were not necessarily ready for or wanting something like this. Maybe not their fans, but like society, I feel like was not like.
It was early. It was very early to do stuff like that, but I applaud it. And like, even at the time, like I don't remember having an opinion at the time of it being like bad. I just remember thinking it was long and having to like skip through, because like the Steve Aoki one and the Predictable one were like more towards the second half, so I remember having to skim through it. But I definitely will say, like, it is a very gratuitous album. It's very lengthy. I think it would have maybe done them better to have picked the best 4 or 5, release them as singles, each with like some sort of visual, or just condense it to like an EP.
Yeah, that could have made a difference, I think.
But I think maybe going for volume and just saying like, screw it, let's just go all the way in.
It's kind of a bold choice, right?
Yeah, maybe they were hoping to like more to make an impact than to actually get these songs to be hits, or to get people to like critically, you know, praise the album. Maybe they just wanted to be seen.
Yeah, I mean, there wasn't like a big. There are reviews of this album, not that many. So I don't remember there being like much of a push or critical response there. But there are tons of Good Morning Revival, so we're gonna have a lot of fun when we get to those. Last question I want to ask before we deep dive into All Black is, do you have anything that you want to share in regards to your own music, like anything you have coming up?
For sure. Oh my gosh, yeah. So to the people listening, well, first I'll plug my social media, and then I'll tell you them what I'm doing right now. So very, very quick. So I am an artist, producer, engineer, songwriter, everything. And I also run a music studio full time. So I like work with clients and like mix and record and write their music as well. So I do music all day, 24/7. So cool. I can't get away from it. So I have 2 social medias. You can follow me on Instagram, Avius Music, AVIUS Music, or Avius Recordings, which is the business centered page. It's not about me or my music. It's just about my studio if you want to work with me. That being said, I'm working on a project right now, like a 5-song EP, I'd say. I'm aiming to release it in the fall. I'm super excited, and I'm actually glad you asked about it because I think the people who listen to this type of thing would enjoy it because I really have been on a musical journey this year, and I'm trying to change a little bit of what I make. And I think the influence in like this project, there's a little bit of like, I don't know if you ever listened to Sophie.
I haven't, but I know
she actually just passed away recently.
Yes, yeah, I remember hearing about that.
There's a little bit of 100 Gex Sophie influence on some of the songs.
Ooh, okay.
But it's very like ethereal yet abrasive experimental electronic music. So I think there's some vibes and some notes of like what people who listen to this would like. It's interesting. Cool. It's definitely experimental. I'm definitely kind of pulling a GC greatest remixes here, making a bold move. So there's going to be some moments in that project that are going to make people make a weird face, but hopefully people will like it. So stay tuned. Yeah, October I'm probably going to release it. And also, cool. If you like clothes, I'm releasing hoodies soon for my studio. So,
ooh, yeah, very cool. I'm excited to hear that EP. I'm really excited. Mm-hmm. Well, so we had connected last fall, and you just mentioned your love of this record, but I really want to know why you wanted to talk about All Black in particular.
It seems like a standout song to me on the album. It just feels like there's a lot of angst on this album, but it just feels like very angsty. And like, I don't know.
This is something I would have written as like a 13-year-old obsessed with black eyeliner. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, like, it's definitely a standout song, and I think like I've always had the speculation that it was about like a past flame or a past relationship, but
yeah.
But I mean, I like the Rolling Stones line and everything. Johnny Cash, like he dropped some names, and like it almost like it was one of the songs where it felt like he's not rapping, but there's some lines that feel a little bit like it's Joel's taking a step in like this kind of braggadocious direction with the lyrics. So it's not only angsty, but he's also kind of like what's the one like the seats in my Cadillac. Like he's talking about like almost like cool things where it's like it's a sad song, but he also is making himself sound kind of badass.
Yes.
So, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It's definitely like sad and emo. It feels really dramatic to me. Mm-hmm. What would you say is like your interpretation of the lyrics? Like, I guess here's one question related to that is like, do you get the interpretation that it's like all real stuff in this song, or that it's like, hey, I'm going for a mood, I'm going for a vibe?
I think it comes from a real place. I think maybe the chorus is probably the only part where it's just like, let's try to generalize the feeling into like something hooky and something that people can shout, and let's think of like very iconic lines, like the Johnny Cash All Black, Rolling Stones Painted Black. Like he's just throwing references out here,
Yeah.
And like making people like go, oh, I can't wait to like sing that part because that's fun. But it's like the verses is when I like read these lyrics and listen to these lyrics. The verse sounds like it's coming from a real place.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So what I had in my notes that I threw in a Taylor Swift reference that I felt like this was kind of their Reputation era, right? Where they're just kind of like dark and kind of embracing it and just feeling some feelings and, expressing that maybe in their dress, but also just how you put yourself out there. It's definitely like a dark song, but it's not one that makes me like depressed.
Yeah, exactly.
Because it's kind of like Real Friends had that sleepy eyes, bony knees, sad boys thing, right? Like it almost feels kind of like that. Like I just look at how dark and mysterious and emotional I am.
I feel that. I think what makes the song special is that it has like the notes of that angsty stuff, but like you said, it's not fully to the point where it's like the most depressing song ever. Like there's a swag to it. Like, hate to use that word, but Joel brings the swag to it, and just the way like the chorus is delivered and stuff, and it does feel like a very good mesh, and like him marrying the styles of like being pop punk, being emo, being sad, but also kind of feeling still like a rock star and being badass. right?
Yeah,
Like I
there's
want to
definitely
scream
like
the
the
chorus when
badass.
it has that class, and that's a classic thing that Charlotte does. Like, I mean, like, Keep Your Hands Off My Girl obviously is way more in the direction of like being more of like rappy and like kind of like
Yes.
has more of that swagger and that like badassery, whereas like All Black is tilted more to like it being emo, but like it still has that like that has like notes of both of them, which is like what makes it so special to me. And I think that's why it's a standout track to me. It kind of
Yeah.
sums up what the album's about a little bit.
Oh,
Although All
yeah.
Black doesn't have as much synth as some of the other songs, so it also does feel like a return to form and like a little bit of the sense, because like if the people who are listening didn't enjoy some of the synthy stuff, like All Black is almost like a little bit of a breath of fresh air. So it has that classic GC vibe.
Yeah. Well, I do want to go line by line with some of the lyrics,
For
but
sure. Yeah.
let's talk about like the production of the song while we're on this note.
Mm-hmm.
The song begins with an organ.
Mm-hmm.
Like an actual literal organ. I mean, I assume it's a real organ. Maybe it's not. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't in the studio with them.
Mm-hmm.
But like, what is an organ doing in this song? Are we supposed to like? Is it for dramatic effect? Are we supposed to associate that with like being in a church?
Well, there's lines about a church if I remember correctly. Yeah.
Yep.
I think that's intentional. I think it's genius to start off with an instrument like that. And even right there, like just starting right off with an organ, like it just pulls you right in, and right at that moment, like you're like, okay, this song is dark. You know, I mean, even the title of the song,
and then you get like some bells that come in too. So I guess that
mm-hmm.
definitely feels like church.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'll try to just like talk about this song, but like really quickly, even in the Broken Hearts Parade, there's like beautiful orchestration. Like we have horns and like I'm pretty sure there's bells in that song, so it's like really tying in the theme of the album, because like you said, this song has or an organ and bells, so it's like they're really dancing around that idea of like these orchestral church sounds, but like also still making it like, you know, emo, and still using and somehow still making synths work in that. And I just think it's brilliant. And I like the addition of the organ in this song.
I like the addition of the organ too. It definitely makes it feel, I feel like organ over synth is the right choice here, because it makes it feel like emotional and emo and angsty and dramatic, as opposed to entirely like braggadocious hip-hop swagger dramatic. Because if they did like all synths on the intro, then it just would have given a completely different vibe.
Totally. I could see if I was in the studio producing the song and I knew the direction they were taking the album, like I definitely would be tempted to use a synth at the beginning too. But like I wouldn't be surprised if they tried it. But yeah, I think like using the organ really, it's about a happy balance between like that going fully into that like dancey synth sound and like knowing when to kind of like be a little more Tim Burton and like use an organ. Yeah, for sure.
Well, let's go line by line. We're not going to go through a whole song, but I picked out some lines that are in my notes. And we're just going to like talk about them. Take a look at my life, all black. I don't know. I guess that's his like, yeah, I'm feeling my feelings. I'm being a sad boy. Take a look at my clothes, all black. This one is funny because this album was kind of on the heels of Joel Madden wearing all white for a while. I don't know if you remember that, because you would have been pretty young.
I do. No, I actually do remember. I mean, like one thing I'll remember is like more than what they were wearing is like the constant hairstyle changing of the band was always like, cool to me and iconic, right? Like shout out Benji with the massive spikes, but for sure.
Like the night that we met, all black. What is he saying here? Is he saying it was dark out? Or that like, yeah, we met and it was like bad from the beginning and things were dark from the beginning?
I think he's playing on the idea of it being either and ambiguous, which was what makes it so cool. Because the way I interpreted it as a kid when I would listen to it, and even now, is like it basically since the day we met, it was bad. Like that's kind of like what he's saying.
Yeah.
But I think that's like the subtext. But like I think at face value, he's saying like the night was black, as in it was dark. But I think like reading between
There's
the lines
subtext.
means the subtext being like it was bad from the start. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I like that. Subtext for sure. Like the seats in my Cadillac. Is there an actual Cadillac, or was this just a let's kind of, get some swagger and like say things that rhyme and sound good and that make me sound fancy?
Yeah, I think that line is purely that, because if I was writing this and like we already have a Johnny Cash line, we already have a Rolling Stones line, we're playing on the idea of all black. Cadillac rhymes so well with what's going on.
So well.
Yeah, I would have like no one could talk me out of not using that line. So I think that one's just like a good closer that ties it together. Yeah.
I used to see red, now it's just all black. Now here's what I get out of that line is that like, and definitely what makes it me think like what you were saying, that it's about like a former flame or something. He used to be mad, and now everything is just dark and sad.
Yeah,
I don't know. Maybe I'm missing some nuance.
I interpreted it as that too, because like seeing red is an expression of being upset, obviously, right? But
like angry.
I think it makes more sense if he's using red in the sense of love.
Oh, okay.
But that's a possibility. Yeah, I used to see red, but now I just see black because red is associated with romance.
Yeah, seeing red as like love actually kind of makes more sense. Yeah. Okay, so this is something I'm like, this is the line I'm very curious about. My mother, she used to tell me, son, you better get to church. It's a dark, dark world and there's evil out there and you know it's only getting worse. So is he saying that as a kid, he was like misbehaved, or that his mother was trying to protect him from evil? What do you get out of that?
I think it's more of like mom trying to protect him for what's out there. And I think like it's a good line to use, because I feel like the chorus is kind of like he's talking about where he is right now, and like it's almost like clearly he didn't listen, because it's like everything I see is black, all black. Like I used to see red, now it's all black.
Everything's evil.
So it's like my mom tried to warn me that it's a dark world, and like
I didn't listen because I'm a bad boy.
Exactly. Yeah.
He talks about like weddings and anniversaries, but I'll go to a funeral if I'm invited any day of the week. Which I just noted that is like some Gerard Way type of shit. That is some like My Chemical Romance, some truly goth type of shit.
Yeah, exactly.
Go to a funeral if I'm invited. And yeah, I just mentioned the lines about I sat down at a table at the end of the night. I am kind of torn on like whether at first, I think for a long time at first, I was very much imagining this song to be kind of like a Riot Girl situation that's not really about a specific person. It's just kind of like imagining meeting someone that is like as emo and dramatic as him. But I don't know. I could see this song being about like a real person, a specific person. I don't know. I'm kind of torn, because I feel like this song is so like dramatic that it almost feels like, let me paint y'all a picture.
Yeah, definitely. The song definitely feels like a painting, and like especially in these verses. Like as a kid, I would always imagine like I would paint a picture, especially the line like that we just went over a second ago about like him being young. I would imagine like him just like walking through these like rainy, dark alleys as like a kid.
Yeah.
And like kind of, and like the funeral, like the wedding and anniversary and funeral line, like I'm not sure if that has any significance. I think it's just more of, like you said, kind of like this, he's just trying to go like full.
Right. I don't imagine Joel Madden is crashing funerals and just like, showing up in all black and crying.
Yeah, but the sat down at the table at the end of the night, having black coffee, cigarette, wasn't wearing white. That's like pretty much the line where like when I heard it, I was like, okay, it could be about someone, or maybe but that's really the only line where he alludes to it being about a girl. He says she, so like that's the only line really. So it could just be him trying to make it a relatable theme, because it's not until the second verse that he says that. So.
Right, and it could almost be like tying in the meeting of that person with where he maybe was at a certain point in life, like personally, like outside of that.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I just think that that's an interesting thing to ponder.
For sure.
We have to shout out, of course, Painted Black by the Rolling Stones and Man in Black by Johnny Cash that are both mentioned in this song. I want to discuss, is this song emo and is this song goth? What do you think?
Yes, to both.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. But like I said before, like I wouldn't want to completely pinpoint it as just being one, because it does feel a little bit like, it does have that GC sound where it feels like a little bit, I hate using the word rappy because he's not rapping, but like there's something about it that's like, yeah.
I mean, that's not like a bad descriptor, because like, you know, the Madden twins famously have said that like it was going to see the Beastie Boys that made them want to start bands, you know? So that's not almost rappy is not a bad descriptor at all.
Yeah. It's more, I'm more saying it with like hesitation, because I don't know, I just feel like people might laugh at like the way I'm describing it, but like I know, I always got the vibe Benji just like always just wanted to rap. I don't know, I just like the way he dresses is like, and I remember my sister telling me that Beastie Boys thing, and I mean you can see it throughout their discography. They've always had
Waldorf Worldwide.
Absolutely. Even like the way he delivers the line, like it's a dark, dark world and there's evil out there, like just the flow, like he's really chopping it up. Like it's almost like he's rap singing it, you know?
Well, plus the whole vibe of like talking about his Cadillac, like that's not something punk bands really do. Like punk bands don't really talk about like
cars and
their Cadillacs.
Yeah, exactly.
Punk bands talk about their cars in terms of like, you know, the van that they, you know, bought to go on tour and get out of their hometown. Well, I guess that's like pop punk specifically.
Exactly.
I think there's definitely an element of emo and maybe goth to this song, but it's not very, it's kind of wallow-y. It's not, it's very dramatic. It's not entirely wallow-y. It's just kind of a, here, this is just the way I am. And I am like, everything is black and it's all black and it's dark and it's bad and it's dark and black. And
totally. Yeah, wallow is a good word for sure.
Yeah. I tried to find backstory on this song, and I really could not find any backstory on this song. So I guess that's a mystery. Didn't really find it. Like they didn't really find it in any interviews or anything that I saw. Who knows? Maybe there are some that I missed, but I did do a pretty good bit of searching.
Do you think like, from your experience, you know much more than me, does Good Charlotte as a band like not comment on their older songs? Like, is it more rare of them to like talk about the meaning of a song like this old, or?
No, I mean they would talk about it, and especially like with stuff that, you know, relates to older songs, and especially with the first couple albums, they did some like anniversary interviews. And, you know, like looking back and like legacy kind of stuff. And they might talk, you know, I saw an interview with the twins where they were talking about prayers, and Joel even mentioned the anthem in conversation. But, you know, and I was looking at interviews from this album cycle, like when this album came out, and I just didn't really even see any that seemed to specifically cite this song. And, you know, I don't know. I mean, there's so many songs on this album, like not every song is going to regularly come up in conversation or interview, right?
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. I think if I was them, I would probably want to be asked about like my most recent stuff.
Sure.
Like,
exactly. Yeah. Yeah. So I'm not expecting them to get asked about this song unless someone in like 2022 wants to do like a 15-year anniversary piece on this album.
Ooh.
That would be cool. Maybe I'll do that. Maybe I'll pitch myself for that. Do you have any memories or stories that you want to share about All Black?
I can tell you one that's about All Black as well as this album as a whole, because it basically, this album reminds me like so much of a trip I took to Florida with my family.
Okay.
And it literally was in 2007. So this was fresh. And I had all the songs burned onto my iPod Nano, I think it was. Or not Nano, oh my gosh. I think I just had a, whatever it was, man. It was old school. And I just remember being in the back of the rental car and we were driving to like Disney in 2007. And like I would refuse to listen to the music on the radio that my parents were playing because I just wanted to listen to GC the whole time, just listening to Good Morning Revival on my iPod. I don't like remember listening to any of like the songs on the album besides this, Broken Hearts Parade, and what else? Maybe The River. Like those three were my fave. Also, Keep Your Hands Off My Girl. But like honestly, if I had to pick two, like it was All Black and Broken Hearts Parade, just like on like repeat over and over and over and over again. So even to this day, like almost 15 years later, like listening to the songs, the memory hasn't faded. Like it still reminds me of Florida.
Yeah.
Which is funny to me because like how dreary this album is. And
yeah.
Disney, like, but I mean,
okay?
like, yeah, Broken Hearts Parade's a little more upbeat, but
yeah,
they just remind me of driving like on the highways in Florida and just like it being like 7 a.m, us going to Magic Kingdom. So yeah.
Yeah, I just remember hearing this and being like, I guess I would have been 15 when this came out, and just being like, yes, they understand I wear all black, and everyone just needs to know how dark I am inside. I got some medication, I got some therapy, so things have improved. I still wear a lot of black though.
Yeah. Hey, wearing all black's a classic, no matter how old you are. What genre of music you listen to. Right?
Exactly.
I'm literally wearing all black right now. I just realized that.
I am wearing a black hoodie and purple leggings. They're like multiple shades of purple. But I do have black socks, and like almost all of my shoes are black except for my running shoes because they had one color of those, which was like blue.
It's just easy. Like, you wake up in the morning, exactly. It's just like, dude, all black, like everybody owns a lot of black clothes, so it's like they're always available, and then on top of that, it's just like it looks good together. You don't have to worry about like, oh crap, like does my outfit not match? Like, and you look badass. Like it's not just like a cop out. Like it genuinely looks sick. But we're all black, guys.
Yeah. Well, I like to talk about other songs a track relates to, and one that comes to mind for me is "The World Is Black" from Chronicles.
Yes.
I guess the difference is like "The World Is Black" is kind of talking about everything else is bad and dark and scary and sad, and this song is like I am bad and dark and scary and sad and mysterious, right? So there's that difference, but I felt that was a necessary comparison.
Yeah, I like that album a lot. I'll try to keep this topic about Good Morning Revival, but I really like Chronicles.
Yeah.
It's so good. Yeah, I like that song, World Is Black. I actually, now that you mention it, it just almost feels like a sequel to that song.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Or a continuation of that theme. That's cool.
Yeah. Well, I want to talk about the remix. On Greatest Remixes, there is a remix of this song by Sean Patwell of The White Tie Affair, which features Matt Devine of Kill Hannah. Thoughts on this remix?
I'll just be completely honest with you, like not as familiar with it as I am with like, the other ones I said. I did like listen to the album, the entirety of the Greatest Remix album yesterday in preparation for this, and I thought it was all right, but like I will say, like it's not as familiar to me as like the ones I mentioned before. So.
Yeah. I don't know. I really do want to go back into Greatest Remixes, like after our talk about it earlier, like go back into the whole thing, because I haven't listened to the whole thing in a while. So I want to go back into it. It's okay, I don't know. I think to a certain extent I still see it with like 16-year-old eyes of like, this is weird, who are there? Is there anyone that comes to mind for you that you're like, I would love to hear this person remix All Black?
Me. Send me the vocals, Good Charlotte.
That'd be so cool.
I'm always tweeting at Billy on Twitter. Hopefully one day he'll recognize me. Yeah. I always thought it was a match made in heaven, just because like we're both into music production now, like, and we use the same software as well.
There you go. Hey, Billy Martin.
And like I listen to like his production, and it's like really good, and like he'll always be asking questions, like, because obviously he's been doing it for quite some time now, but he hasn't been doing it as long as he's been a guitarist and in a band, and obviously a visual artist. So he still has questions every now and then, and he'll be tweeting out like, "Oh, does anybody know like how to do this, or like what kind of like plugins you use?" And then I'll always be tweeting it, and I'm like, "Please notice me. I want to collaborate with you."
Oh, that's so cool.
Yeah, for sure.
I had just been thinking I would kind of love to hear Jaws remix this. I don't know why. Why I feel like that would be a very different vibe than I think the White Tie Affair remix. But I don't know. I was just thinking about that, and I had just been listening to some Jaws recently, and I was like, that could actually be kind of cool. Like Jaws or maybe Crank Dad could do something really cool with this.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Do you think like if like GC released a more modern like remix album, like it could do like a lot, like same concept as this, you think it would do a lot better?
I think it has potential. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
If they did like a modern remix album that had fewer tracks, I think
I was gonna say
yeah.
Mm-hmm. Just like be really careful with like who you ask to remix it, and then I would say probably like be very careful, pick like 10, and then after like choose the best like 4 or 5.
Yeah. Or pick 15 and choose the best 10 or something. Yeah.
Something like that. Yeah. Exactly.
Well, we're gonna read some reviews, and the reviews of this album were not very good. Most of these reviews, if not maybe all of them, did not like this song.
Mm-hmm.
I usually try to balance it and get some good reviews, some bad reviews. Pretty much all of the reviews I saw that mentioned this song did not like this song. But let's get into it. Drowned in Sound gave the album a 5 out of 10. They said that All Black opens with 40 seconds of goth bollocks before spouting trite shit about color contrasts. I mean, I don't know. I kind of feel like they wouldn't be offended by the term goth bollocks. Like I kind of feel
are you reading the review of the remix album or just the album in general?
The album in general. Yeah.
I hate these guys.
Yeah.
But if it was a remix album, I'd be like, all right, whatever. Like it's different. You can talk your talk, but like, come on now.
I kind of feel like the band would hear that though, goth bollocks, and probably be like, "Yep, that's exactly what it was."
Yeah, that sounds
you know what
right.
I mean?
Yeah,
they have a pretty good attitude about it, I think. Music OMH had some thoughts. Once you take the time to look past the kind of lyrical deficiencies that plague the likes of All Black, you start to realize that maybe Good Morning Revival could simply be a case of Joel and Benji having fun with themselves, pandering to the lifestyles they now so heartily adorn. The effortless yet ridiculous All Black bounce about with all the endless enthusiasm of a caffeine-induced 8-year-old on a trampoline. I mean, you can't say it lacks enthusiasm.
Yeah. Who's writing this stuff? Come on.
So here's one that I kind of want to discuss. The Guardian gave the album 1 out of 5. They said, the mawkish melodrama of All Black is so preposterous that you long for Good Charlotte to be poking fun at themselves. Sadly, they are not. I kind of think they are. I kind of think definitely Keep Your Hands Off My Girl is them making fun of themselves and making fun of club culture. I kind of think they are making fun of themselves here. But I think maybe that's something that didn't really translate, right? I definitely don't think that the making fun of themselves element translated on this song, because all the reviews are talking about how ridiculous it is, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't know. I just think that maybe they weren't really like understanding of what they were going for at the time.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Absolute Punk was not a fan. So their reviewer verdict was 11%, and the membership rating was 28%. They say, All Black tries its best to be chilling with its pipe organ intro, but all that is lost when the music kicks in. How can you take lyrics like, take a look at my life all black, take a look at my clothes all black, seriously when you see pictures of the Madden boys eating at posh restaurants, spending millions of dollars, and going out to trendy nightclubs with their model girlfriends? Give me a break, guys. 2 comments from that review I want to read, just because I feel like they honestly add context. English Pat says, don't get me wrong, I hate Good Charlotte as much as the next guy, but this review was a bit much, no balance at all. And Splat Out Path said, this is more like a rant than a review. I'm listening to this album for the first time, and yeah, it sounds pretty bad, but you could at least back up your points. Yeah. I think, again, I feel like this reviewer is maybe someone who didn't get, and maybe understandably didn't get, that there was a certain element of kind of making fun of themselves, putting on a show. That's the phrase I've been looking for, putting on a show with this song.
It's just heartbreaking reading and hearing reviews of an album I love so much. It's like,
right?
Yeah.
Now Toronto had, they said, I got it, I think. After years and years of hating every ounce of Maryland's small punk icons Good Charlotte, it seems now that the actual trick to enjoying their music on any plausible level is to go into the whole thing with absolutely no expectations. Not even low expectations, nothing. Then you have to get past the fact that lead singer Joel Madden couldn't carry a tune if the fate of the freaking universe hung in the balance, that the band members dress like they're 13, and that there will certainly be some genuinely cringeworthy moments like Madness singing, take a look at my life all black, take a look at my clothes all black. If you get past all that, there aren't enough decent, listenable, even catchy moments to make it kind of fun. Just don't tell your friends.
Goodness. Well, I mean, like, this is the thing. He loses his credibility at the beginning. He or she loses his credibility in the beginning when they say that they were never a fan of Good Charlotte. So,
right.
Right there, it's like, okay, well, there's a little bit of bias.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We got to mention the Pop Matters review. So I don't know how many episodes of the show you've listened to, but we mentioned Pop Matters quite a bit just because Adrienne Bigrand has done a couple Good Charlotte reviews that are like just so perfectly capturing the negative, mean-spirited reviews that they received that I just like have to keep going back to them.
Okay.
Nothing can quite compare to the level of ridiculous the band stoops to on the unintentionally hilarious All Black, a flirtation with goth rock that has us wincing from the bombastic, pseudo-orchestral intro. Please, Joel, just stop.
Wow.
I don't know. It's kind of harsh.
It is. How could you diss the organ? Ugh. But I mean, like, calling it goth rock is cool. Like, I like that.
Yeah, I wouldn't disagree with that. Last review of sorts we'll mention is from Plugged In by Focus on the Family, which is like a conservative religious outlet, basically determining if media is suitable for good Christian godly children, I guess. So they listed this song under objectionable content on the album. So, this, if you listen to this, I guess you or your kid is going to go to hell, and this is not good. But they say the singer describes his dark side in a world that's all black, then approaches a girl who shares his gothic inclinations. His gothic inclinations. That's very dark.
You know what? These people are good writers. I'll give it to them.
Yeah. I know, it's not wrong.
Yeah.
Some YouTube comments I want to read from a fan upload of the song. The best one was Fabio LeCap, who said, "And that, kids, is how I met your mother." Slayer of Tears said, "LOL, let's all be honest here. This is the most emo song Good Charlotte's made." Honestly, not wrong.
Yeah, I'd say it's up there. It's definitely one of the darker ones. Absolutely.
Mhm.
Yeah. I can see how, well, I have to ask, it begs the question, like, some of these people don't even like Good Charlotte to begin with.
Right.
And it's the ones that don't, do they even like emo music? Because when I think about people who don't like emo music, a lot of the reasons that they say they don't listen to this stuff is they're just like, oh, why would I want to hear about someone complaining about how their life is horrible and they hate everything and so dreary and depressing, and it's like cringe or whatever. So I could see how someone listening to a song like All Black is like, oh my gosh, I'm 30 seconds in and this guy won't stop talking about how everything is. It's like, oh, boo hoo, there's something about my supermodel wife, or what did that one guy say? So it's like people who kind of think that way it's gonna read that way to them, and they're just gonna hate that, especially if they're really committing to a song being angsty like this one. And then even the one guy described it as, what was it, goth drab, or he used like some sort of
goth bollocks.
Yeah, goth bollocks or something. So it's like, like that's how it's perceived to someone who doesn't like goth stuff from the get-go. It's just going to be like, oh no, celebration of sadness, like, I count me out. Like, yeah.
One other YouTube comment I'll mention is from Essie, who says, love this song. Does it remind anyone else of the song Hotel California by the Eagles?
Mm-hmm. That's weird.
Do you get that? Because I don't get that at all.
Honestly, now that I'm thinking about it, like, still no, but like, I think I know why they're saying that.
Why?
Is it the guitar? I'm trying to think of the guitar riff in Hotel California, and no, not this song. It's not All Black. I'm humming in my head like the guitar riff of Hotel California, and like there is like a dark vibe to it, and like almost feel like, I don't know. Maybe that like there's parts of like the river that could remind. I'm trying to think of like just the melody. I'm just from a musical standpoint. I'm just like going off in my head thinking about where they could have even made that connection. I don't see it really.
Yeah,
but
I don't know. Maybe I'll have to listen to Hotel California again.
Yeah, it could be something as simple as them being in the same key, in the same tempo.
Yeah,
but yeah.
I want to read a couple song meetings comments. Adam Aunt Eve says that the funeral line is so Harold and Maude to me. I am imagining them just like hanging out at funerals. I'm curious to hear what this song is like. I think this review was like before the album was released. So like the lyrics were online, but people hadn't actually heard the song yet. I guess someone leaked the lyrics. Young Love R said, this song is one of the bad songs on the CD. Not the music, it's just really lame, specifically the spooky intro. Okay. Beautiful Place said this one should have been trashed. Well, I guess if your username is Beautiful Place, we know which song you do like on the album. Oleander said, I don't get this song. Is he being sarcastic? Trying to show how other people view him? The rest of the song sounds like it could be serious, but the funeral line makes it sound more sarcastic. That's a good point, trying to show how other people view him. You know? Like talking about, like, oh, you think I'm emo? Hell yeah, I wear all black. I go to funerals. Like, I, hang out with girls that smoke cigarettes in the dead of night. Like, yeah, I am emo and dark and goth and dramatic, and I wear all black. I actually like that trying to share how other people view him.
That's an interesting take. I like that.
Yeah. Well, I really want to know, how has this song held up for you over time?
I honestly, now after talking about it for like an hour, I want to listen to it again and see how I feel, because like it's interesting seeing these people. It's never come across to me as being corny and goth bollocks and all that, but I want to try. I want to try to see their perspective. I know I'll still like it at the end just because of the sentiment that's attached to it. But I think it's still held up. I think now that I'm older and I'm someone who does music for a living, I can see their points. I don't think it's my favorite on the album. I still think it's a standout song though.
Yeah.
I do like. I think if there's anything any line and any lyrics that I think did age well, it's all the Johnny Cash, Cadillac, Rolling Stone lines. I think there's charm to that. I like that. To me, that makes me smile when I hear Joel like reference things like that. I think it's cool. I think it has personality. I think it has life to it. And if any line like aged poorly, maybe I guess like maybe the funeral line could come off a little corny.
Yeah.
Because it's like, okay, we get it, but like I love the chorus. So
yeah. If this song is supposed to be kind of making fun of how other people see him and making fun of the fact that he knows that other people think he's like super doom and gloom and goth, then the funeral line, I mean, it's definitely like jokey, but like then the funeral line kind of almost makes more sense to me. But it's definitely a level of like meta that is not necessarily clear if you're not really thinking about it, you know?
Yeah, I feel you.
Well, what has Good Charlotte meant to you over the years and how has that changed?
What do they mean? Have like say it again?
What have they meant to you over the years and how has that changed? Like how has
I wouldn't say it's changed. I think they're I'll say like what they mean to me is like they definitely represent my youth. And because I'm a younger than my sister and everybody she knows, younger GC fan, they represent my youth and they're definitely a big part of my musical journey. One of the many kind of pop punk emo acts that I was in love with at that time, probably the most out of any of them, just because of who my sister is. And I think after them would have been something like Simple Plan or something. But I think they really played a part in the music that I listened to at the time and music that I would listen to after them, and still the music that I listen to today. And like I said, there was the first CD I ever remember owning was Chronicles, and then after that, Good Morning Revival. So yeah, like no matter what anybody says about them or how many good or bad albums they release, or even if they stop making music, like GC will always be like one of my like first bands that I even remember being aware of. So they're like, they feel like this, it feels like the start of my musical journey. Like GC was there, you know?
Yeah. I love that, Avius. Thank you so much. Do you have any last words about All Black, about Good Charlotte, or about yourself?
Yeah, I'll talk about Good Charlotte just for one more second here.
Yes.
I've always wanted to work with them. Always.
Yeah.
Yeah. And like I said it earlier, I think if anybody of them is going to work with me, it's going to be Billy. I always felt a connection with Billy. Like my favorite member is always Benji growing up, just because I thought he was just the coolest with his hair and stuff.
Oh, yeah.
But now that I'm older, I realize that Billy is like really the secret weapon of that group. And he's just super cool. And like I still to this day follow like them closely, like with him on social media and like what he's doing. But any of them really in any sense, like I would love to work with them. And yeah, I still am excited to see what they're going to do. And if they ever come to Detroit again, like I'll be there. Yeah. I love GC forever.
Well, thank you so much. So we have a Generation GC and Friends Spotify playlist. So I'll put All Black. I will put the remix of it. And then I would love to hear from you, like which song of yours should we add? And then just a suggestion from you, anything you've been enjoying recently that's not GC or your own music.
Cool. You want me to tell you right now something I've been enjoying recently? Yeah, I'll just say it because like I was thinking like maybe I should say something that's like pertaining to like the genre, but like
no, whatever you're
whatever. I've been listening to a ton of Aphex Twin lately. Okay. I have like my musical people are always like, oh, I listen to everything but country. Like I even listen to country. Like I literally listen to anything, man. I listen to Noise, like a half-hour album of Noise. I love right now. I'm listening to Aphex Twin. A lot of Sophie. A lot of Little Sims. She's like a UK rapper.
Sure.
Always listening to the Gorillaz. I'm obsessed with Young Lean and the Sad Boys. Blade, Echo 2K. a lot of Swedish artists, and anything that really like falls in like cloud rap or hyperpop or experimental like ambient techno. Like I'm really in that like underground European sound right now. Like that's what I've been dancing around. So
hell yeah. Which song of yours should we put on the playlist for people to listen to?
Trying to think what would be the best. Like I think my most like so far critically acclaimed is a song called Intertwine.
Okay,
just because it's like really dancey and like synth pop. But I'd say like putting Strength on the playlist would be probably the best bet because it's dark and dreary, and like I think if you're someone that likes that kind of music, you're gonna vibe with the kind of soundscape. It almost feels like parts of it almost feel like a movie score.
Perfect.
And it's very very atmospheric and very instrumental at times. So I think that one would resonate with the listeners. So
perfect. Well, thank you, Avius. Did you want to just repeat your socials for everyone?
Of course. So I mean, I have Twitter, I have everything, but Instagram is where I'm the most active.
Sure.
So on Instagram, it's Avius Music, so at AVIUS Music, or my business account. If you're someone who is an artist or a producer that wants to learn, I'm constantly posting tips and stuff. It's Avius Recordings, so at AVIUS Recordings. And then on Twitter, if you want to see me be a hooligan and not act professional and just tweet about random stuff.
That's how we all are on Twitter. It's just okay.
Yeah.
It's just
that's what I like about Twitter. It's like, you know, all these other social medias, you put out, you put up a front of how your life is, and Twitter, it's like, hey,
no.
I'm eating a sandwich on the toilet. So
yeah. Twitter, it is okay and encouraged to be completely unhinged.
Exactly. My Twitter is at official Avius. So.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much for coming on the show. I'm so glad Loriana suggested I reach out to you. Listeners, thank you so much for tuning in to episode 61 of Generation GC. Last week, we talked about Predictable from the Chronicles of Life and Death. Next week, we'll be talking about a song from Cardiology. My name is Molly Hudelson. I've been your host. You can follow Generation GC at Generation GC Pod, POD, on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. You can also follow me, Molly, at M Hudelson, MHUDELSON, on Twitter and Instagram. Please make sure to follow the show, subscribe wherever you listen, and please join the Generation GC Fam Facebook group. Come hang out, be a friend. Let's all talk. We'll have a good time. Thanks for tuning in.